Thank you for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. Today we're going to be talking about a really challenging subject, expressing pain. This is episode number 172. I learned this as a nurse. When people get hurt, they have various ways of coping with it. Some people yell and holler. I mean, a little old cut, and they're like, yeah, they just go berserk. Some people cry. They get kind of hysterical. And it's way out of proportion to what's going on. Some people get stoic. They just pull into themselves like deathly quiet. And that's their way of handling it. They're going to hold on. Some people verbalize it. Wow, this really hurts. I cannot tell you how bad my back is killing me. Oh my goodness, this is painful. This is awful. This is terrible. People have lots and lots of ways of expressing their pain. This is also very true emotionally. Some people will yell and holler at you. Some people will cry hysterically. Some people will pull deep inside of themselves. Some people will talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. This is one thing I know, and I've learned it even more significantly the more that time has gone on. None of us really can understand another person's pain. If person A has a hysterectomy cut across their stomach, really a challenging surgery because there were things messed up in there and it lasted 4 hours, and they bled a lot and they really had some complications, and they might wake up and take some couple of pain pills and then take some Tylenol and be just fine. Person B might have a hysterectomy and very simple. They were out of that operation room in 15, 20 minutes. It was easy as pie. They took out what they needed to take out, sewed them back up. No trouble with their recovery. And they're yelling and screaming and they're frantic. And you're thinking, wowee. And person C might be somewhere in the middle there. And their response is off the charts. You cannot say what someone else's pain is. You cannot just take objective information and predict what kind of pain someone's going to have. Because we would logically say that person A is going to have so much more pain and such a more difficult recovery, and that's not always the case. So I've seen it a lot physically. I've also seen it emotionally and spiritually. Some people go through a traumatic life event and they handle it. Doesn't mean that they didn't have pain, or it doesn't mean they didn't have difficulty, but they handle it. Some people go through a similar life experience and they fall apart. I mean, they come unglued. They are frantic and they are talking about it and they're crying about it and they're angry about it and they're just like wowee. Okay? You do not know someone else's pain. You don't. And you cannot stand on the outside of it objectively and say, well, just this happened to you. I mean, what's the problem? I'm going to give you an illustration. I have a very good friend whose mom lived in Germany during World War II. And her mom actually walked through a place a day or so after it was bombed and saw dead persons whom she knew, with whom she was familiar. Just really a very horrific experience. And we can all appreciate that that stayed with her in her lifetime. Now, her daughter saw a person on the side of the road that possibly was dead, certainly in trouble. And she got home, she's telling her mom about this. You know, I saw this guy on the side of the road. It was very distressing. I was very upset. And her mom was like, oh, well, that was nothing. It was a great deal to my friend, and it really was. And her mom was comparing it to, well, this happened to me, so what big deal? And basically minimized and almost made my friend feel like what she felt, the pain and the grief that she experienced, was immaterial or unimportant. Yeah, we have to be really careful because we don't know the other person's pain, not the extent of it or the depth of it. We really don't know. And I think sometimes as parents, we do that. Uh, I grant you, we want to teach our kids to have a certain level of capacity to cope and maybe even a certain amount of toughness. We might actually say to them, "Oh, it's not that bad. Get up, keep going. You're going to be okay." But we also need to have wisdom and care in how we treat people when they are in emotional pain. I'm going to use a couple of specific examples for you, but this is not limited to these examples. It is only a means of helping you grasp something about emotional pain. Okay, there are a lot of siblings that I have, as you know, and we all went through my mom and dad's divorce. We did not all experience the same kind of or the same extent of pain over my mom and dad's divorce. For each one of us, it impacted us and affected us differently. So, who was right and who was wrong? And the answer is absolutely none of us. Each one of us had our own response to that pain. Here's a great place for you to understand as a parent that pain can translate into anger. Hurt and pain can really anger us, especially if somebody else was the one who hurt us. Again, whether that's physical, emotional, psychological, or spiritual, in time, our response to pain very often can become anger, can even become bitterness and hatred, but initially anger. So if someone says, that person really hurt me, they did, they knew what they were doing, they said this, they did that. Well, that's pain that's now translated into anger. For a lot of humans, I guess I would say in my experience and also from what I know clinically, most humans aren't very comfortable with pain or even sadness. We're a lot better with anger. So many times that hurt, that pain will translate into anger or another emotion. It can translate into hopelessness, can translate into frustration. But the one most commonly seen is anger. The other illustration I'm going to use for you is this one. I had a friend whose dad committed suicide. Her way of dealing with the pain of that and her two sisters' way of dealing with the pain of that were dramatically different. I didn't know them at the time of the suicide. I knew them years later, and now I've known them for about 15 years. Each of them, at the time of the suicide, had a different emotional response, and through the years has processed it emotionally differently. And it has actually driven them apart. They're not terribly close to each other. And so when we go through a common experience, but we have very different emotional responses and we express them differently, and I think especially a traumatic event that we go through and we're trying to express our pain, trying to express our emotions about it, and someone else's experiences are very different and their emotional responses are really different, that can actually divide us. It can pull us apart. And so we need to talk with our children when they're feeling pain and they're expressing pain to us, whether that is a small amount of emotional pain because their best friend doesn't want to talk to them anymore and they have a new group of friends and they are talking badly to them. You know, you're ugly, you smell funny, I don't want to be your friend anymore. The mean things kids say and do. And you're helping your child process that kind of emotional pain over rejection or betrayal. Whether you're dealing with a middle school aged child and they're struggling with their own identity and their sense of themselves, and they don't feel good about themselves already, and someone is insulting and rude and mean to them, and they just feel so worthless and so hopeless. And honestly, they feel a great deal of pain over being rejected or not being accepted. You need to listen to all of these things, all of these pains and sorrows that your child is sharing with you, because it's a great gift when someone really tells you the truth of their heart and is willing to share their emotions with you. You need to see it like that. I want you to know, mom, dad, this is not going to be quick. In other words, especially a person who verbalizes their pain or gets a little hysterical about their pain, they need to cry about it. It's going to take some time. You're going to have to invest that time in listening to them express their pain. Let me tell you, it will circumvent them having a really negative, angry, bitter, or maybe even hateful response if they can process it while it's still at the pain point, because you can offer them comfort and offer them support and say to them, I am really sorry that this hurt you so very much, but I want you to know that I am right here. I love you. And this is not the end of the story. It might seem like it right now, but in a few days from now, things will probably be better. If they're not better with your friend, you're going to be better. You're going to be able to cope with this. You are going to be able to handle this. And you will, in fact, have other friends. But right now, I know you feel sad. You're feeling pain about what happened with your friend. Don't be so quick to move past that and tell them how it's going to be all better. Listen to that pain. Let them go through that pain. Let them feel it and experience it and express it to you. That is really healthy and really helpful. I want you to understand, because I think that you already do, pain is a part of life. When someone dismisses, minimizes, or completely ignores our pain, we have no means of releasing it. When you, as a parent, are willing and learn the capacity, are able to listen to your child's expression of pain, especially emotional, psychological, spiritual pain, you are helping them to become a much healthier, happier human being. So it's a great gift to give to your child to allow that expression of pain. Oh, and to express your own. If your child does something repeatedly and it really is causing you great distress, like a 17-year-old who keeps getting drunk and has already wrecked a car and is really causing you some heartache, I think it's very appropriate to sit down as a parent and say, you are really causing me some deep pain. I'm not telling you to change, though heaven knows you need to. But what I'm saying to you is this is really causing me some deep pain, some real distress. It is appropriate at times in our life to express our pain to our children, as well as listening to them express theirs to us. I hope this has really been helpful to you. One thing I will say to you, you have a child who is real hysterical, or who bottles it up, those two especially. It is good to help them find some words if you can. So you might say to them, it seems like you're really sad. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not sad. Well, it seems like you're very upset. It seems like this is really bothering you. The one who's real hysterical, you can say, I could see this is really hurting you. This is really bothering you. It's going to help you a lot to talk about this instead of just going way off the deep end. You can help them modify their style in still being very, very willing to hear their expression of pain, and yet helping them to do it in a way that is healthier and more productive. So don't be afraid to help them modify that just a little bit. Not at 3, but certainly by the time they're 10 or 12. My challenge question for you today is this. How do I express pain? Because you need to know your own style. How does my child or my children express pain? And if nobody does, what do I need to do to help all of us learn how to express our pain in a way that others can hear us and to lend support when one of us is in pain? I really hope this has been a lot of help for you today. I'm so glad you were able to join me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.